headlines of this hour on VTV News. National Assembly Standing Committee convenes the 32nd session to discuss law and ordinance building. Connecting route built to streamline the North-South Expressway functions. And in a world news, world leaders call for maximum restraint over Iranian attack.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning. It is currently 8 a.m. local time and you're tuning in to 30 minutes of VTV News. I'm Dylan with the latest updates. Now, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh has signed an official telegram on the application of solutions to avert unwanted power interruptions in the dry season in 2024 and the following years. In the telegram, he requested the Minister of Industry and Trade to strengthen state management while stepping up inspection and supervision for the operation of the national power system. The Minister of Industry and Trade was asked to urgently complete mechanisms and policies for electricity trading so that they will be promulgated before April the 30th. The ministry should focus on the selection of investors to soon carry out power source projects in the planning. The Prime Minister also urged relevant units to accelerate the implementation of the Circuit 3 500 kilovolts transmission line from Quang Trec to Pho Noi and the power transmission projects from Laos. The National Assembly Standing Committee convened its 32nd session in Hanoi on Monday under the chair of National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ. High on this session's agenda is the deliberations on the Law and Ordinance Building Program in 2025 and adjustment to the Law and Ordinance Building Program in 2024.
In his opening speech, Chairman Vương Đình Huệ said that the session would take place over 4 days and discuss 18 main contents and give written opinions on 3 contents. He also asked for feedback on draft laws scheduled for the first consideration at the National Assembly's upcoming 7th session, including the draft revised law on cultural heritage, the draft law on justice for juveniles, the draft amended law on value-added tax, the draft law on urban and rural planning, and the draft law amending and supplementing several articles of the pharmacy law. Among them, the draft law on justice for juveniles is a new bill. In the afternoon session, the National Assembly Standing Committee voted to approve adjustments to this year's Law and Ordinance Program. They also heard a proposal to develop a law project to amend and supplement a number of articles of the law on supervision activities of the National Assembly and People's Councils. Preparations for the National Assembly's upcoming 7th session will also be a focal point of discussion.
The steering committee tasked with summarizing theoretical and practical aspects from the đổi mới or reform process over the past 40 years convened its 2nd session on Monday. Trương Thị Mai, a Politburo member and permanent member of the Party Central Committee's Secretariat, as well as the head of the Party Central Committee's Organization Commission, highlighted the significance of summarizing 40 years of the đổi mới in preparation for the 14th Party Congress. Emphasizing the need to address 8 major groups of issues in the summary process, she stressed that this endeavor should be closely tied to the objective of essentially completing the theoretical framework on reform guidelines as directed by Party General Secretary Nguyen Xuan Phuc. Therefore, the assessment of each issue group must be intricately linked to the task of refining the theoretical framework on reform, laying the groundwork for proposing goals and solutions for the upcoming period, particularly in the drafting of documents for the 14th Party Congress. Besides completing the primary North-South Expressway project, several intersections and connecting routes are swiftly being built and put into operations. These vital links enhance the operational efficiency of the North-South Expressway axis and foster regional connectivity for the areas traversed by the expressway.
The construction of the Theo intersection in Thanh Hóa province is nearing completion. This intersection is part of the supplementary network with an investment partnership between the Ministry of Transport and the local authorities.
Chiaojiang intersection has 470 billion VND in investment. It is expected to open to traffic on April 15th to serve travel needs of the public.
The North-South Expressway passing through Thanh Hoa Province will feature 7 intersections. The province has allocated tens of billions of Vietnamese dong towards constructing connecting routes.
We will arrange industrial parks near the intersection area. And in 2024 we will complete the planning of 4 industrial parks at intersections with the North-South Expressway.
According to a representative of the Ministry of Transport, alongside the North-South Expressway axis, there's potential for further integration of additional connecting routes for localities adhering to proper planning and existing regulations.
Some of them are quite small. But there is really no level of coordination between the central government and the local government. But we have needs for better regional coordination.
Local authorities are actively assessing the inclusion of additional intersections along this crucial transportation route. In accordance with regulations, each intersection on the highway must maintain a minimum distance of 10 kilometers and align with the developmental goals of each locality, promoting inter-regional connectivity.
Despite being a latecomer to the World Trade Organization WTO, Vietnam currently ranks 12th among countries that conduct the most investigations into trade defense cases, with 2 to 3 cases initiated by businesses each year. This shows that Vietnamese businesses are becoming increasingly adept at using this tool to protect domestic production.
This fertilizer manufacturing plant was once protected by safeguard measures, a trade defense tool applied when imported goods cause serious harm to domestic production. As a result, what was once a company facing millions of US dollars in losses gradually turned profitable. Thorough research into trade defense measures has helped protect businesses against excessive fertilizer stockpiles flooding into Vietnam at unusually low prices. Inciting unhealthy competition.
Instances of dumping in Vietnam have been revealed. Therefore, we are coordinating with lawyers to gather data as a basis for anti-dumping lawsuits against fertilizer imports into Vietnam.
Vietnam's sugar industry is protected through anti-dumping and countervailing measures against Thai sugar. Companies have experience proving violations of imported sugar.
Our sugar mills have collaborated to provide evidence and relevant information regarding smuggling and dumping within the country and region.
According to the Trade Remedies Authority of the Ministry of Industry and Trade, domestic enterprises have now become adept at using trade defense tools, and tangible effectiveness can be seen.
In industries involved in international trade, businesses are most knowledgeable about the procedures for applying trade defense measures. Currently, most trade remedy investigations against Vietnam are in steel, chemical, plastic, and rubber products.
Some enterprises are still hesitant to use trade defense measures due to concerns about disclosing business secrets. The Ministry of Industry and Trade assures enterprises that they can use these tools confidently. The information is independently provided to lawyers and investigative agencies and is used solely to protect the common interests of the manufacturing industry.
Resolution 98 pilots regulations for various mechanisms and policies to foster the development of Ho Chi Minh City. The municipal government has implemented a non-refundable support initiative for innovation projects and creative startups. They aim to help projects in their challenging initial phases that require assistance from the authorities.
This business operates in the air conditioning field. It has completed an application to access to the city's non-refundable support. This funding is pivotal for hiring experts and gearing up for the subsequent crucial round of capital procurement.
In addition to providing money, there is also an ecosystem that can help us access quality experts to support us in developing products to bring to the market.
Throughout the research and product development stages, businesses often face numerous challenges. As such, the non-refundable support policy aims to facilitate innovation projects by offering a comprehensive support framework The anticipated total expenditure is over $8.3 million, sourced from the city's regular budget allocations.
This mechanism is extremely important. Funds supplemented by state to stimulate initial investments can be reciprocated through investments from businesses, societal contributions, and venture capital funds.
We know that startup businesses encounter many difficulties in the early stages, so the non-refundable support from Ho Chi Minh City will help them have initial financial capital.
Between now and 2028, Ho Chi Minh City aims to support nearly 2,000 innovation projects and creative startups. As such, the application of Resolution 98 with its non-refundable support for innovation initiatives and creative startups will significantly bolster the innovation ecosystem.
Coming up next on VTV News. Nationwide movement underway to provide housing for disadvantaged groups. And later on, sustainable tourism thrives on proud rally grounds. Welcome back to VTV News. Now, as part of sustainable poverty reduction efforts, the removal of temporary and dilapidated houses has gained momentum across Vietnam. Currently, local authorities are extending support for the housing construction and renovation, benefiting approximately 145,000 poor and near-poor households. This policy not only facilitates housing stability, but also motivates households to lift themselves out of poverty.
Long, a widow, has been living with her 2 children in a dilapidated house for long. She didn't know who to turn to if she wants to build a solid roof. Now her wish has been granted as the local temporary house elimination movement approved her financial support for house building.
I received some $2,000 from the Provincial Fatherland Front Committee for my house renovation. Thanks to support from my relatives, I was also able to build a house of my own.
The committee's survey results showed that more than 430 local households are in dire need of permanent housing. We will continue to call on more to support the households in need.
Under this movement, each eligible family receives state support totaling $1,500 for building new houses and $790 for renovating old houses.
Without state and local funding, I wouldn't be able to build this house.
Since 2011, state funds and social initiatives have facilitated the construction and renovation of homes for 820,000 working class and poor households nationwide. Notably, the Vietnam Fatherland Front has pioneered the construction of communal housing for 607,000 families of disadvantaged backgrounds.
By 2025, our movement to eliminate dilapidated houses will have been met with ample success. It underscores our nation's philanthropic tradition.
Despite notable progress, close to 315,000 poor and near-poor households haven't accessed secured housing. Therefore, it is imperative for local authorities to sustain efforts in ensuring the resettlement of these disadvantaged population. The goal is to reaffirm the commitment to leave no one behind.
Vietnam has recently submitted to the UN its National Report on Human Rights Protection under the Universal Periodic Review, or UPR's 4th cycle. A press conference was held on Monday to announce the report. At the event, Deputy Foreign Minister Do Hung Viet said that as of January 2024, Vietnam effectively implemented 209 recommendations, or 86.7% of the recommendations it approved in the third cycle. He praised Vietnam's important achievements in human rights protection in terms of administrative reform, sustainable development, green transition, digital transformation, and social security. At the same time, he pointed out the challenges that need to be resolved to ensure the implementation of human rights with the goal of leaving no one behind. Vietnam will join a dialogue on its report at the United Nations Human Rights Council on May 7th in Geneva. Vietnam is among 30 high tuberculosis burden countries in the world, according to the WHO's Global Tuberculosis Report 2023. The country has risen from 16th to 11th place among nations with the most tuberculosis patients globally, and also ranks 11th for multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. To cope with this situation, Prime Minister Phie has issued a dispatch urging ministries, sectors, central and local authorities to thoroughly implement the National Tuberculosis Prevention and Control Strategy. To understand more about Vietnam's efforts, our reporter Lena Pham sat down with WHO representative in Vietnam on this issue.
Well, first of all, Dr. Angela Pratt, thank you very much for joining us. Can you give us an overall situation of tuberculosis in Vietnam?
Almost 200,000 people are newly infected with this condition every year. So that's a very significant number. 11,000 people die from this condition every year. 4 in every 10 people with TB don't know it. Around 10,000 children are newly infected with TB every year in Vietnam. Many of the children who are infected with tuberculosis are not diagnosed. That's because paediatricians are not always aware that this is something they need to test for and to look out for. Similarly, the issue of drug resistance. The government of Vietnam has shown very strong leadership on tuberculosis from the top levels of the government, the Prime Minister, all the way through. So I really want to commend the government for its leadership and its commitment, and in particular its commitment at the highest levels to coordinating all of the different sectors and ministries that need to play a role in addressing this challenge.
So what are the solutions to the existing problems of tuberculosis management in Vietnam?
The first one is that we need to find everyone who has TB and get them onto treatment. So we need to make more efforts in what we call active case finding, getting out into the community, getting people screened, diagnosed, and then if they have the infection, quickly getting them onto treatment. The financing, for example, that's one of the big challenges we need to address to make sure everybody can access the treatment regardless of their ability to pay. That requires the Finance Ministry to be involved, not just the Health Ministry. So we really welcome the government's very strong show of leadership as included in that recent dispatch.
So what do you think about the role of hospitals at communal level in terms of early detection?
Typically, most of the treatment for TB at the moment happens in hospitals. But we know there's not always a hospital very close to where people live. It's the commune health station that is typically closest to where people live. So if we can equip commune health stations with commune health workers with the knowledge to look out for the symptoms, the resources to be able to do the initial screening and then refer on if need be, I think that will make a very big difference.
And once again, thank you for the insightful information you gave us today.
My pleasure.
The northern province of Lao Cai launched the Ethnic Traditional Costumes Week 2024 on Monday. During the week, visitors can immerse themselves in the colorful ethnic cultural space with traditional music and dance performances. They can also enjoy a performance of traditional costumes of 13 ethnic groups living in Lao Cai province. The event aims to honor the beauty and cultural value of traditional costumes and contribute to preserving and promoting the cultural identities of ethnic groups in Lao Cai province to both domestic and international friends. The 70th anniversary of Điện Biên Phủ victory is only a month away. During the first days of April, tourists flocked the paths leading to Điện Biên province to appreciate the nation's proud history. Drawing opportunities from this historic event, the local authorities have hosted the National Tourism Year 2024 to develop tourism with regards to nature, history, and culture.
The Thai Cultural Club in Điện Biên Phủ city has more than 100 members. They gather for club activities regularly, striving to uphold traditional cultural values.
We gather as an active club to preserve traditional culture. We often perform at keynote cultural events in our province and attract a large group of visitors each time.
At the first ever homestay in Che Can Hamlet, not far from the headquarters of Điện Biên Phủ campaign, local people have been creative with their ways of integrating indigenous culture into tourism service.
The locals make homemade meals from their vegetables and flower gardens. They are savory and original.
As more and more tourists have drawn to the province, it has fundamentally changed.
Our ways of living have drastically changed for the better. We change our ways of communicating and doing daily tasks, and keep our streets clean.
As a new tourism hotspot, the Điện Biên Phủ Battlefield Relics Complex has generated significant economic gains for the developing mountainous province.
This is our prime opportunity to promote local tourism. We have plans to upgrade our accommodation systems to cater to a growing group of tourists.
Điện Biên Phủ aims to attract 1.3 million tourists in 2024, with tourism revenue totaling of $80 million. The land of heroism and revolution is striving towards prosperity thanks to its cultural tourism movement.
Coming up next in A World News. World leaders call for maximum restraint over Iranian attack. And later on, members of EU Parliament approve a new migration and asylum pact. Now moving on to our world news, world leaders have called on Israel and Iran to exercise restraint and avoid fueling a regional conflict following the Iranian airstrike on Israel on April the 13th. This came as Iran confirmed that the problem was over and also warned it would strike again with greater force and on a larger scope if Israel retaliated. According to U.S. officials, U.S. President Joe Biden has told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the United States would not participate in any Israeli counteroffensive against Iran. A top diplomat in the U.S. and security officials have reportedly worked on diplomatic solutions with partners, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and Jordan, to avoid escalation. French President Emmanuel Macron said Paris will try to convince Israel not to retaliate for the Iranian drone and missile attack. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron said the UK does not support a retaliatory strike while putting emphasis on a Gaza ceasefire. Foreigners who have been ordered to face deportation due to illegal residence of crime will only be allowed to stay in South Korea for a maximum of 36 months. That is part of the amendments to the Immigration Act recently passed by the South Korean National Assembly. Specifically, the amended law will take effect on June 1st, 2025, allowing a protection period for foreigners to be extended from 18 to 36 months. The amendments seek to facilitate the deportation process for foreigners. It also limits the indefinite detention of deported foreigners in temporary shelters, as previous laws stipulated their detention until they are put on a plane. The European Parliament recently adopted 10 legislative texts to reform European migration and asylum policy, as agreed with EU member states. The reform takes nearly 9 years to negotiation to reach consensus after a migration crisis in 2015. More to follow.
The ambitious proposal by the European Commission ran for hundreds of pages and involved a myriad of complex issues, such as fundamental rights, unaccompanied minors, data privacy, financial contributions, detention periods, and national security, which slowed down the legislative process.
We have acted and we have delivered on one of the main concerns of people across Europe. This is a historic day for Europe. I want to thank members of the European Parliament who have spent years working on this.
Under the new regulation, member states can choose between taking responsibility for asylum applicants, making financial contributions, or providing operational support. Parliament and member states in.
The status quo means that certain countries have difficulties in managing the migration flows. We see that people are being subject to criminal activities, to human smugglers. No one could agree with the status quo, I hope. And this is a compromise, but it's a compromise that breaks the status quo, and that's what is expected from us, I think.
We have really given a legislative response to a European plea that our citizens have asked across all member states for many, many years.
The Council spent years debating and amending the new pact, deepening the intricacy of an already intricate legislation.
The Chinese government has allocated funding to support a pilot project to increase charging facilities for new energy vehicles, or NEVs, in rural areas. According to a finance ministry official, the project aims to address the shortage of charging facilities in the nation's rural regions, optimize the environment for the consumption of NEVs, and tap into NEV consumption potential in rural regions. In light of the plan, provinces and cities are introducing several pushing consumption promotion programs. For instance, Shanghai has provided a one-time financial support of nearly $1,400 for individuals who replace high-emission passenger vehicles with greener models. The city of Wuhan also launched a sponsorship program for people who buy new cars from 50 local electric car companies. China has seen the addition of 716,000 charging stations during the January to March period in 2024, or up 13.2% year-on-year. And up next, let's have a look at the weather forecast. And that is all that we have for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can visit our website or YouTube channel or download a mobile app VTVgo for more. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.